So it's that time of the year, Diwali is coming, and it's time to remind our parents of the ground rules of how society has had an update in the past 20 years. It has evolved, and so what conversational topics to stay clear of, and what conversational topics are there to pursue. Number one, do not comment on anyone's appearances, right? Do not comment on hair, do not comment on a person's face and facial features, do not comment on their body, do not comment on their clothes, do not comment on their accessories, do not comment on their weight. It does not matter what your intentions are. There is a too high of a risk that your impact will always be hurtful and painful and cruel and negative. Okay? So it does not matter if the excuse you have is that you care about their safety, or that you care about their health, or that you're making small talk, or that you want to share advice on how they can improve, or you want to compliment them for abiding to societal beauty standards. Whatever your reason is, it's not good enough, right? Because you meet your nieces and nephews or other people a few times a year. You don't truly know what they're going through in their lives, the struggles they're having. So whatever you're saying, even if you think it's a compliment, right? Even if you think, oh, I'm saying they're thin, that's a compliment, they'll be happy. You don't know what's going on in their lives, right? For all you know, they might be struggling mentally, and that's why they're so thin, or they might be so stressed, that's why they've lost weight, or that they are struggling with an eating disorder like bulimia or anorexia. You genuinely do not know about them enough. Even your children, you might live with them every single day, but you might not know of some of the struggles that they are experiencing. And when it comes to safety and health and small talk, many people have different ideas for that, different values for that, different takes on that. And so it might be completely different from yours. And you shouldn't be projecting what you think is right and good on other people, right? Because essentially, all these words like health and weight, they don't have any morality tied down to it. You can't look at a person with a different weight or a different height or wearing a certain thing and say you're bad or you're good. You can't judge a person that way. And so you should keep your opinions to yourself. If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. And again, if you have nice things to say, maybe the nice things for you, it's a nice thing, but for another person, it might not be a nice thing. So my advice to you, my suggestion is to just stay away from this topic. Number two, when it comes to talking about education or career, focus on the process, not the product. So this is me telling you that there are some questions that will hurt other people's feelings, right? So you should stay clear of them. And those are questions that only care about the end result of things, right? So if you ask your nieces and nephews what are their grades, if you just want to collect their A, B's, and C's, or you ask your cousin how much are they making in their job, or had they gotten any promotions, right? Or any big projects that they have been successful on. So think about it. Why are you asking these questions? What are you going to do with this information? Are you going to use it to compare to yourself or to compare with your children? And what good does that do? Each of these people are very different people. How can you compare them? And so think about it. If you really want to build a connection with these people, you want them to feel safe and seen and heard and felt with you, you want them to like you, and you want to like them, you want to get to know them as human beings, then you have to ask questions about their process. So instead of asking them about their A's, ask them about their favorite subjects or the favorite things they've learned this year. Any cool concepts in university, any fun things that happened in class. Ask them about their hobbies or their extracurricular activities. Ask them how they prepared for that event. What did they do? What did they like about it? What did they dislike about the experience? Any fun things that have been happening in your job? Any co-workers that you've become close friends with? Any thing that you would like to improve in the world, in your job, in your field? And you can always go back to relying on culture, on TV shows and movies and songs and games. And you can always ask them about their favorite movie and what they loved about that movie. What was your favorite character? What was your favorite scene? What was your favorite piece of dialogue? If you were that character, would you have done the same? Everybody has things they love talking about. So if you can tap into their interests, their passions, you'll have a great conversation. And even if you can't relate, you'll leave the conversation with a lot more understanding about a certain topic. You've enriched your life in the process. You feel? And in terms of how do you react, how do you reply when you're having these conversations, make sure you give people what they want. Meaning, if someone doesn't ask you for advice, do not give advice. Again, you meet them a couple times a year, it's fine. Most of the time, people just want someone to listen attentively. And what you can do to show that is you can paraphrase what they're telling you, or you can validate their feelings. So if they're talking about this struggle they've been having, don't dismiss their feelings or don't talk about yourself. Just say, that must have been hard. That must have been difficult. I'm proud of you for going through that. It's not that hard, guys. Just repeat back what they're telling you. Like, summarize their story for them. Oh my God, so that, then say that story happened to you. Just paraphrase it back. Another conversational tip is to ask more questions, more specific questions. It shows that you're listening and that you are interested. You want to know the details. You want to know the smaller parts of what they're talking about, right? And so you can ask questions to deepen the conversation, right? And of course, if you are knowledgeable in that area, add to it, enrich that issue, like tell your perspective, but always be humble about it. Always understand that people have different perspectives, right? And even if you want to share your advice, you can ask like, hey, I have some advice about this, but I'm only going to give it to you if you want it. Do you want advice? Then if they say yes, then you can go ahead and say your advice. But what you do is that you can soften it. You can be like, oh, but of course this is from my perspective and my field, and like, for my age and what I went through, this worked for me. Always use I statements like, this worked for me, but maybe it can help you out, and maybe you can, make it evolve, like change it up. Or, if it doesn't work for you, it's fine. You don't have to take my advice, Like when you hedge like that, it shows people that you're very humble and that you're more knowledgeable, in fact, because you understand that there may be a million different solutions for an issue, million different paths a person can take to get to that. Other conversational advice, some I've picked up on TikTok, is that when someone explains something to you that you already know, right? Don't just say, yeah, I know that already. Like, don't get irritated. Don't take it personally. If you want to win that conversation, they tell you something you already know, you just say, I agree, or you've got a good point, and then move on. And if someone shares an opinion that you disagree with, do not get triggered or defensive and just blurt out your opinion, right? It's not a confrontation, it's not a debate. And again, you are only meeting them a few times a year. This is not worth ruining your mental health, ruining your peace for. Of course, you want to stand up for certain things, like they might be saying something that's not politically correct or not valuing human rights, and you can understand that it's because they come from a lot of, biases, lack of exposure, societal issues. So you can give your opinion, but just give it once. And if they disagree, just move on to a different topic, right? That's what I like to do. That makes me feel like I didn't just like stay silent, is that I like to give my opinion once and then I move on, whether they agree or disagree. Like, it will take so much time for someone to process, to change their opinion, or to think about something from different perspectives. So you say something once and you move on. And how you put it on the table is that you say, I agree, and don't say I agree, but say I agree and. So when they have an opinion and you have a differing opinion, the way you broach that is by saying, oh, okay, I agree, and then you give your differing opinion. Because when you say I agree and, it makes them feel like you are taking them seriously, like you heard their point clearly. And usually you do, but usually we move past this step really quickly, right? And that's bad, because when people feel invisible, when people feel like you are not listening to them, they're not going to listen to you, right? In fact, it's going to be like the tension, the animosity in the air is going to make it impossible to have a nice conversation after that, right? And so start with like validating them. Like, you can paraphrase their point and you can say like, oh, I see you, I see your point from your perspective, I hear you, and boom, you give your other perspective, right? But of course, pick your battles. Some people do not even want to build that kind of bridge with you, so you can just agree with whatever they're saying and then leave and talk to another person, So yeah, these are some tips to think about this Deepavali. And know that you are worth so much more, that you do not need anyone's validation, that you know your authentic self, that you have worked hard in your own ways, that you know your struggles and you are processing them and you are moving forward day by day. And I'm proud of you and I love you and you're enough.